Do tiny scenario maps confuse and frustrate you? Are your historical battlefields disappointing? Do you wish there was a better way to lay out your historical terrain accurately? Well, wish no more. Now there's Easy Map. Why settle for this when you can have this? The larger map makes making and laying out accurate terrain a breeze. How much would you pay for that? Hello everyone, Chuck Dice here. We at Wargames Tonight love making wargame comedy. But we also want to share some tips and tricks about our hobby that you can use in your own games. In this one, I'll be showing you an easy and inexpensive way to enlarge a scenario map or a historical map to your game's ground scale by using Microsoft Paint and Microsoft Word. A game scale map makes setting up terrain easy, and you can even play directly on the game scale map to test a scenario to see if you like it. You can also cut up a game scale map to make templates so your game terrain has the perfect footprint for your game. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Start by finding a digital map image with a bar scale that you wish to enlarge. Select, copy, and paste the image into Microsoft Paint. We like this one of the Battle of Waterloo that showed elevation. Now we have to divide our map into sections that can be easily printed on standard size sheets of paper. We will have to make 3 simple calculations. When it's over, we'll be ready to print. Let's begin by determining the length of our map's bar scale in game inches. To do this, we find the length of the map's bar scale and then divide that by the game's ground scale. In our example, the bar scale is 1 English mile, which is 1,760 yards long. Check your rule book for your game's ground scale. For this example, we'll use a game ground scale of 1 inch equals 150 yards. Now divide 1,760 yards by 150 yards per game inch to learn our bar scale is 11.733 game inches long. Next, we determine the number of pixels per game inch by dividing the length of the bar scale in pixels by the length of the bar scale in game inches. We can measure the bar scale in pixels by simply drawing a straight line along the length of the bar scale and looking at the bottom of the screen where Paint tells us the line's length in pixels. In our example, the bar scale is 211 pixels long. Divide 211 pixels by 11.733 game inches to learn our map of Waterloo has 17.98 pixels per game inch. Now multiply the number of pixels per game inch by the dimensions of the printable part of a standard piece of paper, which is 7.5 by 10 inches. In our example, this works out to 134.85 pixels by 179.8 pixels, which we then round to 135 by 180 pixels. We now know that a 135 pixel by 180 pixel rectangle on our map will cover 7.5 by 10 inches on our game surface. Now we can use those pixel dimensions to divide our map into 7.5 by 10 inch sections. Start by creating a large blank space in your project by clicking and dragging the work area as needed. You will want a workspace at least as big as your map. Zoom into the blank space you created. The next step is much easier when you are zoomed in. Draw a rectangle the exact dimensions we just calculated, which in our example is 135 pixels by 180 pixels. This will be possible by looking at the bottom of the screen where Paint helpfully shows you the exact dimensions of the rectangle you are drawing in pixels. Use the thinnest line you can see clearly and choose a color for your rectangles that is different from the colors on your map. Copy your rectangle using transparent selection and paste another 135 by 180 pixel rectangle in the blank space and then carefully join and align the rectangles to form a grid. Repeat this process to form a larger grid of 7.5 by 10 inch rectangles. You may need to zoom out once your grid becomes larger. With a little experience with paint, you can also copy and paste and join multiple rectangles at a time. This will speed up the creation of your grid. You can make your grid any size or shape you like. It's up to you, but you will want the grid to be large enough to cover the entire area you wish to represent in your game. Once your grid is finished, use transparent selection to select and copy, and then paste the grid you just created onto your map. Align the pasted grid to cover the parts of the battlefield you want to play on. I suggest you save the result under a unique file name so you still have a clean copy of the map should you need it. Now we can turn our grid into printable pages using Microsoft Word. Set your margins to a 1/2 inch, leaving a 7.5 by 10 inch printable area. Also set your page orientation to landscape if your images are 10 inches wide by 7.5 inches high, as in our example. Using paint, carefully and precisely select and copy one grid rectangle. You can do this more accurately if you are zoomed in. Paste the copied grid onto a page of Microsoft Word. Right-click on your image and then select Size and Position. Modify the size of your image to 7.5 by 10 inches by changing either the height or width as needed and then clicking OK. Word will automatically rescale the image. Don't worry if the size of your image is just a bit off. You should be able to get them within 1/10 of an inch and that will be just fine. Continue pasting and resizing grid rectangles one at a time until all grids you wish to enlarge have been pasted onto a separate page. Save all your documents and print the resulting 7.5 by 10 inch images. Now we can assemble our images into a larger map. Trim 2 of the margins on each page, one on the long side and one on the short. Be consistent on which sides you trim. Connect the trim pages together using a glue stick and clear tape. Use the edges of your images as guides to line everything up. Repeat these steps until all your sections are assembled into a single map. And here it is, Waterloo at our game's ground scale, where 1 inch equals 150 yards. We can use this to make and lay out our terrain or play directly on it, test out a scenario. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit like and subscribe. We appreciate your support. Stay tuned for more from Wargames Tonight.